A museum with live bats?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Modcast, episode 68.
Woohoo! We've made it. There's 68.
Honestly, we're just recording this so we can get to the next number.
Pretty much. This is actually a filler episode, just so you all know. I'm Waj.
I'm Slime.
I'm Elam.
I'm Joganicus Madamicinus.
And this is a no-topic episode, so I don't know where we're gonna go with this.
I do.
Oh, really?
I'm not going to tell you, though.
Oh, okay. How are y'all doing? It's been quite a while.
I have been engaged in a relatively new position at a workplace. Well, I continue to learn more about the one period of history within a 30-year span that I know anything about.
But you're an expert now at that.
I am a minor expert in 17th century early American history in the range of 1600 to 1630. Anything outside of that realm, I don't know. Aliens could have constructed the Washington Monument, and that would make sense to me. I'm not involved with the curating of artifacts, but on my very first day, my boss is like, "You want to see the collections?" And I'm like, "Yes." And she shows me an important legal document in Plymouth's history. I'm not going to, and I can't, but I could just reach out and touch that, and that is from 400 years ago. It's just crazy, and I can only imagine what it's like in museums where they have stuff that's even older, and something that now I cannot go to museums without thinking about it from a logistical standpoint of like, so how did you guys do this? How did you do that? PBD Essex, how do you deal with those live bats? You are a museum. You are not a zoo.
Wait, what?
How?
A museum with live bats?
Peabody Essex Museum in Salem, Massachusetts. Fantastic museum. There's a lot of places that sort of lean into that touristy aspect in Salem of like, oh, the witches. Peabody Essex is really more focused on not just Salem history, it's other places in the world. But presumably, they know their audience is people who are there for the spookiness. And so they had this exhibit that was talking about bats. They had all these different interactive, here's what different bats sound like.
Well, how did they do that?
They just had different buttons that you could press. They had this thing where you could practicing echolocation. We didn't end up doing it. And different panels talking about depictions of bats in media. They had a whole section dedicated to Batman and Dracula. Nice. But looking at it in terms of why are bats associated with these things. But then we round a corner, there's the little enclosure. And in the little enclosure, there's some live bats. Just sleeping, because it was still daytime. You had this little half-shell bubble thing that you could crawl underneath and stick your head up into the bat enclosure. From a museum standpoint, they must have someone on their staff specifically that's like Bat Wrangler, because like that's not in a typical museum wheelhouse. It's kind of a completely different skill set.
I'm assuming they would have somebody who has zookeeper training to take care of them.
I imagine so. They're very big and they have money. It's probably for this temporary exhibit that they hire a zookeeper, essentially.
How do museums work funding-wise? I'm curious about this because I grew up here in a part of Canada near the capital city of Ottawa, where there are tons of huge museums with all sorts of interesting things you can see. And I'm like, how does the monies work here?
It depends on whether or not it is state-run, if it's a federal government-run museum, if it's a private museum. But even then, there are differences between a private non-profit museum versus a private for-profit museum. I have been to both, and I can tell you that there is a distinct difference in the way they run things.
How so?
Generally speaking, the primary form of funding is donors. It's people who have money who enjoy history. You also will very frequently see museums charging at the front gate. For some museums, they can get away with having very low or even free costs if they have enough funding from elsewhere. For example, the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., the Smithsonian museums are completely free.
Wow. I don't think there are any of the big museums in Ottawa. You have a nature museum, a war museum, a history museum. I don't think any of them are free entry that I know of, at least. You can apply for a pass from the local library to get in for free, but that takes like months.
For some museums, if they don't have access to other funding, they will have higher costs at the front gate. Some museums, if for whatever reason they don't have people donating or they think that's not important, have their admission costs cover 80% of their annual budget, which, considering the fact that the norm is 20, is insane. and means that you keep having to charge higher and higher costs. And you're going to reach a point where people can't afford to visit your museum anymore, and then you will have no money. And also, you're offering a more lackluster product than you had 20 years ago. Anyway, this is not a place I used to work at or anything.
Thinking about museums, the Lego house is one that I'd really want to visit.
Does that count as a museum?
It is, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, there is actually a job at the Lego group that is literally like Lego historian.
Ooh, yeah. Well, that's connected to the archives, right? Lego has their archive houses.
Yeah, it's part of their historical department based in the Lego Idea House.
The Lego Idea House, which is the former home and woodshop of Ole Kirk Christensen? That's cool! I don't know if this is surprising or not, but I like history. And I like history about Lego.
Yes, there's been a lot of great feedback from Behind BIONICLE. It's something that I don't think will necessarily branch into anything professional, but it's just really interesting to dive into how these things actually came together in a way that hasn't been talked about in books or any other documentaries that I've seen.
It is always fun to look at periods of history that aren't talked about as much. It's kind of exciting to do that. Histories are often taught in a very simple way, but the reality of history is that it is endlessly complicated. There are so many different factors that it is almost impossible to encapsulate all of them. So the most you can do is try to encapsulate as many of them as you deem important.
It's about perspectives. That's kind of the heart of it. Is oftentimes things are presented as this is just the way that it happened, but often there's a lot of nuances. Maybe Cybots was not the only project about constructible action figures. In fact, the more we've talked with people, it seems like there were a couple other people that had already come up with that concept. Andrew Nagel is one, and we've also recorded an interview with someone else who had a similar kind of concept. It's very gratifying to work on because I don't think these stories would be told because they were very obscure. I'm just glad to finally have it out there, and the response to episode 1 has just been great. We will continue.
Yeah, it's been really cool.
I just made a kind of major life transition and basically have, for the time being, left higher education. So I'm very much trying to figure out what exactly happens next, because I didn't have a specific job opportunity lined up and unsure exactly of where I'll land.
I'm in a similar position. I just graduated like a couple months ago, finally, after like 6 years. I've been applying to a bunch of jobs, have not really heard back, but, you know, doing the video editing thing still.
I kind of put a lot of my hobby stuff on the sidelines while I was really focused on getting my first degree in college. For a variety of reasons during COVID, I wound up getting really heavily back into my hobbies and finding that this is something that I found really helpful and satisfied my craving for learning new things, even in the context of learning everything I possibly can about Lego or Star Wars video games or Nerf blasters isn't necessarily going to directly translate into career prospects, but it's been a lot of fun.
I'm doing okay. Been focused on work.
Are you still in education?
Yep, I am at a middle school, which was a bad move.
How so?
Are you teaching a specific grade?
No, I'm still a para, so I just have a different classroom I go to each period and float around and help the kids who are struggling. So both 7th and 8th grade.
As someone who's worked with kids for a while, middle schoolers are hard.
Yeah.
I would think they are worse than high schoolers.
They are definitely worse than high schoolers.
Because they just don't hold back.
Yeah.
Those are some of the most vicious creatures you will ever see.
12 to 14 is like the danger zone.
I was also working in a very imagination type space. Around 4th, 5th grade is when they're like, but that's not real. You're lying to me.
I guarantee you they're all going home and doing all sorts of crazy imaginative things that they just don't want to admit to.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, good luck engaging high schoolers. I just had a group of seniors come through the other day. And this was for, I think, an optional class. And I opened with, how many people here are interested in history? Out of the 24 people, 5 hands, maybe 6.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And I'm like, let's see how much I can get you to care by the end of it. And the answer is, you can't.
Mm-hmm.
You can try, and that's all you can do.
How do we end Modcast?
Remember the outro?
Oh, yeah.